So just the first question, just kind of like a rough overview, like log line of what Unsung Heroes is.
Okay, cool. So, Unsung Heroes is a short documentary film that I produced this year about three stalwart volunteers at a community football club on the Sunshine Coast in Australia. And basically, the film follows them as they come to terms with other people involved at the club, such as players, coaches, and parents not caring about the club as much as they do is pretty much the log line I would give.
Yeah.
And as people, you know, go through, it's about lifelong friendships, and it's also about um, having meaning in your life and finding purpose and all that sort of stuff too.
Sweet. And like, obviously, I could see you in some of the clips at the football club, but apart from that, like, what grabbed you about this story?
Okay, so I was initially intrigued by Rick Bastions, who was my coach when I was starting the season that year. So I was initially attracted to his character because he's this eccentric Dutch guy and he is like a straight talking guy and he takes what is quite a casual thing, which is social football, really seriously. Like, and got quite angry if no one was taking it as seriously as he was.
Alex, are you alright? It's shit. It is shit.
So my initial interest was there, and I thought I'd watched series as like the All or Nothing documentaries with like professional football clubs, or you see things like Ted Lasso or all these other sorts of shows. And I thought it could be quite funny if I was to document a local community football club in a professional way
Yeah.
and follow the reserves all season. That was the initial idea.
All right.
Um, and then when I got into it, um, I sort of quickly realized that it was quite a shallow story. Like there wasn't much depth to it, really. Like, and it was almost like a bit of a piss take
Yeah.
on, and I didn't want to like come across as like mean and I don't know, just like a little bit manipulative in like documenting the whole season. So I sort of like learnt as I was interviewing him initially, like the value he got, and also um, the value that his friends at the club, Nick and Gary, got from working there as well.
Yeah.
And so it evolved from what was sort of like a not very serious documentary in terms of like topics and what I covered into like, oh, well, I usually looked at these guys as like a little bit sad because they'd been there ever since I've been at the club. And I'd always think to myself, um, why do they spend so much time there?
Yeah.
Like it's almost like have you got nothing better to do with your
Yeah.
life? That was my initial intrigue in them, and that's sort of the question I've tried to answer in documenting those three guys.
It's really like what you said before about like the whole meaning and finding a purpose. It's so fascinating because it starts off like as a simple kind of documentary, and then I'm watching it and I start thinking about like people I know who they spend their lives that to me something is completely pointless and meaningless, but to them it's everything. And like I found that so effective. And then I started thinking just like, well, like everything's kind of, like pointless, but it matters to someone else. And I found that like really, really well done.
Ah, cool. I'm stoked you like that, and I think I like my first one I did was about a guy reaching for this real pie in the sky vision, like, and it was this like almost impossible task, whereas this film is about just like small pleasures and less grandiose aspirations and being content with that, and that sort of you can be into whatever you like, and it
Mm,
doesn't matter.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Mm.
Cool. And then just onto like how long it kind of took you to actually shoot this, because to me it seemed like if it was over a really long period of time, especially with the like the as it moves throughout the season and as the team or your team is losing. Yeah, so how long it took to shoot?
Yeah. So I started filming in March of 2022, I think, with Rick. And then I stopped filming at the end of the season. I think my last shoot was October or November 2022. So yeah, it was a whole season I covered them for. And then sort of finalized, and within that was games, and I sort of and I used those as like timestamps throughout the year. So that helped the story progress. It didn't feel like it was just a week in their time or whatever. It was a whole season. And I also had like pickup interviews throughout the season because I was sort of forming the story in my head as it was coming out, sort of thing. It wasn't fully formed in my mind when I first started filming. So yeah, that was sort of the filming process.
Cool. And then
Yeah.
like what each day kind of looked like filming. It sounds like it was pretty different every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Different. So, and like I would fit it in. I work pretty much full time. So that was also a reason why I sort of chose to pursue the story, because I knew playing at the club, I'd be there 2 nights a week training, and then once on the weekends as well. So
Mm.
it sort of fit in around that. So a filming day, um, or like what happened sometimes was a Friday afternoon after I'd finish work, I would have scheduled a interview with either one of the talent, and do an interview with them on the Friday evening, or and then the following day prepare to shoot like the montage football games, where I would have 2 camera operators, or sometimes if I wasn't playing, then 3, and one would be sort of focused just on like the details of the game, um, and then the other would be following Rick, for example, and just being on him and capturing all the things that he says during the game.
Yeah, cool.
Um, yeah,
Um, and then like during the shooting, because it was like quite a while,
yeah.
and you did talk a little bit about how the story changed. How did you kind of like maintain motivation when, if for a documentary, you don't really know where it's going to end, like you don't know where the path's going to lead. So how did you like keep up the, I don't know, drive to get it done?
Yeah. I think it sort of goes to like documenting what you're interested in. Like I've played football all my life, and it's been a big part of my family life. And I've been at Caloundra for about 10 years, and I've sort of known these guys for ages. And I don't know, I just had a feeling that it would be a story that people wanted and like also needed to hear a little bit, because um, from my perspective, I didn't value volunteers at small community clubs prior to that, and they do struggle to get people on board. So it was sort of like half I was intrigued because I'm super passionate about storytelling and football, and then half because it's sort of had a bit of a social impact as well in the
Mm.
community.
And I was wondering,
Yeah.
like, what was like the reaction from the everyone who was in it to the documentary? Like, did they love seeing it, or were they a bit like, whoa, like confronted by it?
Yeah, so I was a bit apprehensive sending it to them when it was all done, because they do, I'm very grateful. They felt quite comfortable with me to be quite vulnerable on camera with me at times. And yeah, you never know how they might receive that. But I think like the tone I gave, I tried to have in the edit, and the overall message sort of came through, and all three of them absolutely loved the film, and really are really proud to have been a part of it. And just sort of grateful that I've told their three stories sort of thing as well. So yeah, it was a positive reaction, which is great. They sort of may have got tired of me. They probably resented me towards the end of the season. Like, I've got a camera in their face all year.
Yeah.
So towards the end, I could sense they were getting a little bit fatigued with me being like, hey, can I get this? Hey, can I get this? But when I went away, there was sort of that breathing period of like 6 months where I was then editing it. And once I then showed them, they were absolutely stoked with it. So yeah.
Sweet. I just want to move on to like your stand-up kind of now.
Oh yeah.
Because I saw I don't know, I think it was on Archie's story maybe, or yours, and it was like a joke you told, because Archie said you did stand-up. I was like, oh fuck, that's actually really good. So then it kind of made me like really interested in where you were going to go with it. And I just want to start off with like your process, like writing jokes, kind of like a little bit like how they come to you, what it looks like for you.
Yeah. Cool. I've only just started out in the last 6 months, so I'm very much a beginner at stand-up, but I've really enjoyed it so far. And I guess my writing process so far is a lot of ideas. I try to be like sort of aware of things in my surroundings, like in my life. And what I usually do is, if I'm in the car driving, thinking about things, or I'm on a walk, or even if I'm at work just editing videos, things might come to me, and there'll be like a feeling of like, oh, that could be quite funny. I'll put that in my like notes app on my phone. And then when I set aside Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sunday mornings, about half an hour to an hour of like importing those, like they might be a phrase, or it might just be a word, or it might be maybe a rant in there about a certain thing that I've either dictated or written down in the past, and then putting that in a Google Docs document, and either reading through it, where 99% of these ideas are probably trash. And from there, there might be stuff you can work with and form into a joke. They might just be a premise at first, but then, when you spend more time on them, they sort of come together. I've been trying to, I heard on a podcast recently, like, that you should try and write the first draft of something while it's in your head fresh, like as soon as possible. So I've been trying to do that a bit lately, and doesn't necessarily have to be polished or anything, but it's just like the beats in the jokes or the story that I'm trying to tell. So that's the process so far, but it's all what I like about comedy, and what I'm sort of getting used to, is that there's no formula or anything to it. Like, it's very much jokes can come to you in many different ways. I might be like about to fall asleep and something will come to me, and then I will spend the next 30 minutes when I've just said goodnight to my girlfriend, writing down a joke that I've just thought of, that I don't know where it's come from, but it's that's also part of the writing as well. It's just whenever sort of inspiration or an idea hits me, really, it's just trying to capitalize on it.
Cool. Like, I want to go back to what you said before about So you work full time as an editor, and it's a bit off topic, but
Yeah.
like, do you find working a full-time job as well as like trying to be creative and write stuff and make things, like, is it a huge struggle for you, or are you able to balance both?
Uh, so I work full time as a video editor at a production company just 5 minutes around the corner from home. And personally, going from, because I used to do freelance where I pretty much work for myself and try and do the creative stuff on the side. Personally, for me, now I've got sort of a job, and it's in the industry that I sort of want to be in. I'm sort of honing my skills and things like that. It's actually taken a massive weight off my shoulders that I think has really helped blossom my creativity, because now that I don't have to worry about the finances or the when's the next client's going to be involved, you know, have I got to do my BAS statements or like all that sort of real boring business admin stuff.
Mm.
I was sort of willing to sacrifice because I can then spend that time thinking of new ideas, whether that's a documentary or whether that's a joke or a short film or whatever that may be. So for me at the moment, it works really well. It may change down the track, but right now it's at a point where it fits in with my lifestyle and it helps.
But so is it 5 days a week, 9 to 5 type thing, or?
And it's 4 days a week, 9 to 5.
That's
So
perfect.
that's good as well.
That's really good. Yeah, that's kind of where I want to go, is like, because I just work at like a bar, like shitty burger place type thing, and I really want a job where it's like kind of like in the industry, but it's also not, 5 days a week, maybe like 3 or 4. So you have enough money, but then you have time to like do the shit you want to work on.
Yeah. Yeah. And I sort of like went into it being conscious of that as well, of like, okay, I've got this set. That's like, I think it's what happens when you have kids as well. Your time shrinks and you only have a certain, your allocated times, and you then are way more productive at doing the things that you really want to be doing, because time has become more precious and less available. I think it's just sort of about my process of getting that job was subcontracting for companies, production companies. And I sort of formed a great relationship with a guy that I subcontracted for, and just happened that he wanted to scale and bring me on board permanently. And it's sort of, I also made him aware of my aspirations as well. So like, if you do that and you're open and honest about it, people who want to employ you, this might just be a bit of advice for you as you're looking for that sort of work, but they'll put that into your employment. They want to help you as well on that journey if they really value you. So it's a great setup, and super grateful.
Cool, perfect.
Yeah.
And with going back to stand up now, like, do you want to like keep pursuing stand up, or is it just a bit of fun for you? Like, where do you kind of want to move in like the stand up scene?
Yeah. So I sort of, this year I've sort of just given myself a target of crafting, getting up to a point of like 12 minutes of material, like a 12-minute set. So I'm currently at like 5 minutes of like solid material. And I guess to get to that, I just have to keep doing open mics and those sorts of things. And so that's like the right here, right now, where I'd like to go with it. But what sort of got me into it initially is like the thought of because I see a crossover with documentary and comedy quite a bit. Like a lot of my favorite shows is like mockumentaries like The Office or what else is there? Like all the Chris Lilly documentaries as well. Like I grew up watching those things, and I see, I'd love to eventually get to a point where I could either produce or write or even perform in a show like that. So the comedy and the documentary producing and all those sorts of things are like just building towards those skills in getting to that point. That's that would be a really cool thing to do. But outside, I'd say it shifts in like, can be like day to day and like what I'm interested in terms of like, oh, I really want to do like documentaries today, or oh, I really, I've got all these jokes I just want to write. It sort of just fluctuates between the two, and I don't feel bad about it because they will support each other as well. Like there's use cases for both. So yeah.
So it's a question for later on, but do you see yourself being like a documentary filmmaker in the future, or is that just for now and you do want to move to like more narrative type stuff?
I think no, I see myself doing like factual stuff, and I see myself doing narrative stuff in the future. Like if there was a way that I could do both, that would be amazing. And then the factual stuff is obviously easier to do. And that's why I've started in that, because it's like the characters are already there. It's just a matter of, getting permission to film them, and, sort of it's like a run and gun sort of thing. But maybe as I guess like it'll inform future projects as well, because they when it gets to narrative stuff where you're having those production skills, they'll apply over to the narrative side of things as well.
Yeah, sweet. Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I just want to go into like talking movies and stuff. So just some like documentaries that kind of inspired you, or just documentaries you just love in general.
Yeah. Okay. So I've always so a film I love that's a documentary is Grizzly Man by Werner Herzog. So that's a film about this guy called Timothy Treadwell, who is a big environmentalist character, but he's a little bit simple. And basically, he was always campaigning to save these. He would go and live with these bears in northern Alaska. Have you heard of it?
I haven't, no. Wow.
Right. So, he'd go and live with these bears in northern Alaska on his own for like months at a time. And he's got hundreds of hours of archival footage of it. And basically, he would always say like, oh, well, these bears are, they're not dangerous. We shouldn't be able to poach them, all this sort of stuff. But he ends up getting eaten alive by these bears.
Oh my God. Holy
fuck. Werner Herzog sort of like crafts together this account using the archival footage. So it's all this amazing footage of this guy with these bears doing like video work on his own. So he'll set up a camera and then go stand next to a bear and talk to the camera while this bear's right there and stuff. That sort of is incredible. It sort of inspired me to seek out characters like that, because they're out there, and you just have to be sort of open to sort of being interested in other people, and like there's a lot of interesting people out there. So that's sort of one film that comes to mind.
Cool. Sweet. I gotta watch that now. That sounds incredible.
It's on YouTube.
Oh,
so,
sweet.
Yeah.
All right.
If you look up.
Yeah. And then do you have any others, or is that
let me just think. Nah, I don't. I do have others, but they're probably not as like compelling as that one. So
Yeah, cool.
yeah.
And then just like it's a hard one, so you can take your time with it. But like
Yeah.
four of your favorite just general films, or your four
Okay.
favorite films.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Cool. All right. Yeah, I'll have a bit of a think about that. I'll put Grizzly Man on as one of those four. I'll
You have Letterboxd?
hey.
Do you have Letterboxd or no?
No, is that
Uh,
like films that you've watched and stuff like that, is it?
yeah. So that's what I just asked people.
Um,
I'm like, if you have that, you can just go see your four
Go through
favorites.
it.
But
Um, yeah, I'll just give you three more. I was a big animation fan growing up,
mm,
so, um, yeah, so Toy Story was like my, sort of iconic sort of childhood movie that I loved watching growing up.
mm,
Um, and sort of comedy wise, I loved Superbad.
yeah.
Oh, and my sort of like drama film that I love watching is that Slumdog Millionaire.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so Danny Boyle and
yeah,
yeah, I love that movie. So
yeah.
that would be my four.
Wow, it's a big like variety of films that are all so different.
Yeah, good cross section of things,
Yeah.
and yeah, they're all great for like different reasons.
Mm,
Um, yeah, so yeah, I think, and like, yeah, I've sort of have quite an eclectic mix with just like everything, like when it comes to music or comedy or films, and yeah, it's sort of, I think the bigger, broader like perspective you have on those sorts of things, the more you can like draw on for your own work.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah,
And then I don't know if you've been watching many movies this year, but in
yeah,
2023, what's your favorite movie so far of the year?
2022 or 2023.
We'll go both if it makes it easier for you.
Oh, shit. So I watched last year. I really enjoyed this. It's a documentary called oh my God. Oh, The Velvet Queen, it's called.
Okay.
And it's a French documentary film. And it's about this filmmaker and a nature photographer go on a hike through Tibet, and they're trying to find a snow leopard, this like
Oh,
infamous
right.
snow
Yeah,
leopard.
yeah.
Have you seen it?
No, but it sounds like The Secret Life of Walter Mitty is like a documentary.
Well, yeah, it is a little bit like the visuals in it are like really stunning and stuff
Mm,
like that. And that was a film that, yeah, last year I watched, and I was really yeah, I was super impressed by, and I told heaps of people about. And then this year, I think I've like watched older stuff this year. I haven't watched
yeah.
any new stuff coming out yet, but I'll I don't know. Is it a bit cringy to give my brother a plug? I've watched his
No.
rough
Oh, no, not at
cut.
all. So what do you think?
Yeah, so yeah, I'm excited. I haven't seen it finalized yet, but I've seen
Mm,
rough cuts of my brother Archie's film, which is called The Couple Across the Way. And yeah, I would, from what I've seen so far in terms of the cuts he's sent is, pretty awesome and original and sort of bold idea. And yeah, I'd say I'd recommend people to watch that when they can as well
mm.
this
Perfect.
year.
Yeah, sweet. I'm keen to see it. I haven't seen a rough of it yet, but I'll definitely go when he does like the cinema screening. So
Yeah,
yeah, I'm pretty
no,
keen for that. Um,
awesome.
and then so now I just wanted to move on to like the future. So what
hmm
type of like Australian kind of documentaries and even films do you want to see being made? if it's too specific, you can kind of go like, just where do you want the Australian film scene to move in general? Like what type of stuff, like content created, if that
Mm,
helps.
yeah, I don't really watch a great deal of. It's probably quite a shameful thing to say, but I don't watch an awful lot of Australian content.
Mm.
Um, but the stuff that I do like watching, like last year I watched I'm Juanita, which is a documentary about a like honky tonk singer in like in Tamworth, I think. And
Mm.
she went over to the States to record a like a big like Nashville album, her first ever one, that she's
All
been
right.
trying for years, sort of thing.
Sick.
And she's like I think a prostitute. She's also like heavily autistic and like sort of, yeah, it's this sort of starving artist story.
Yeah.
And I really enjoy that sort of stuff. So that's what I always like to see more of is those sort
Wait,
of unsuspecting.
was that? Wait, sorry. I'm sorry to
Yeah,
interrupt. I'm
yeah,
just.
yeah.
Oh, I've met her.
Yeah, there you go. There was a
Yeah.
screening. Was it at New Farm last year?
It was at I went to Winton, right, for
Oh
first
yeah,
year film school. I was in first year,
yeah.
and she was there, and she
Okay.
was going up to everyone and like saying some crazy things. Like,
Yeah, she's
I
a
see,
nutter.
yeah. Well, I don't want to be, yeah, but yeah. So she was going up to people like, I see your future, and like this is gonna happen to you, and everyone's like shitting themselves, like, what the fuck? Who is this? I didn't talk to her, but yeah, and then she was
Yeah.
saying like, I have a documentary coming out about me, and I'm like, oh, she's just waffling. I guess she's not.
You should watch that movie because
Really? Wow, that's
it's
sick.
really good. And yeah, it's Aussie and Madman distributed it. So
Yeah.
um
Fuck.
yeah, it's really good. And yeah, I think it documents like what is uniquely Australian. Like she is a unique Australian character
Mm.
uh, in real life. So I think if yeah, in the future there could be more things, um, whether it's like um, indigenous, like more indigenous sort of content as well. That's like uniquely Australia because I think there's probably room for that, or
Mm.
just like yeah, these unsuspecting characters like Juanita that are in Australia. I think yeah, that's what I'd like to see in the future.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, sick.
Yeah.
And then finally, and I've asked you before we started the interview, but kind of like,
Yeah.
what is next for you? What are you working on, or even like, what are you working towards?
Yeah, so my immediate future is, I guess, trying to get as many people watching my new film as I can. So that'll probably take me up towards the end of the year, and in that time, I'm actually moving overseas to London, and yeah, I think that's sort of in pursuit of other opportunities in documentary, like moving away. Hopefully, this film can be sort of put as like a CV to other documentary companies over in the UK that I can be like, hey, I've produced this. Can I help you guys produce your stuff? And moving away from the commercial corporate stuff that I've been doing
Mm.
full time and sort of moving into the documentary space, whilst also yeah, continuing to hone and write new stand-up material as well. And yeah, just sort of try and develop them at the same time as best as I can, really.
Mm.
And I've got a folder in my email called Screen Ideas, where I just like, if I've like with jokes, like if a screen idea comes to me, I'll just write it in an email to myself and I'll archive it. So once I've finished distributing the film, I'll have a look through there and sort of see what tickles my fancy, and what's worth me sort of investigating more, and yeah, just try and just build on what I learned from this previous project.